How are y'all doing? Wednesday, November the 15th. Hope you and yours are doing just fine. Gal, how are you doing, Gal?
Oh, just wonderful, just wonderful. Try to keep up with the news, but then trying to avoid it at the same time because it's just too much.
It is a very difficult and disturbing balance in the force. There's a pop culture reference. This is a pop culture show.
Right,
Hey, look what we
exactly.
did. So, what do you want to start with as
Oh, dear
usual?
God.
We have so much.
Let's start with Elon Musk because I just learned about it.
Oh, yeah. The man who helped Trump for 5 minutes, if anybody remembers that.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. I didn't know what to think of that. But I had one thought of why are you even in the same room as him? And then I had another thought of because a friend of mine kind of pointed me in this direction. He said, well, it's not like he's really working for, I mean, he's working for Trump, yes, but it's not like he's one of his cabinet members. It's not like he's a senator. It is about the economy. Maybe he can actually help in some way, shape, or form. So it's kind of like I was on the fence, but I didn't like it. But this stuff that just came out this week, this I have absolutely no scruples about saying this is awful. And Elon, he's been added to my list on my moments on my Twitter of white celebrities I thought were cool, but in fact are not.
So there was a lawsuit, right? I did. I literally just looked at this in the last few minutes. So you might have to explain some of it.
Well, here's what happened.
I see the response. I can't wait to talk about that, but let's talk about the lawsuit first.
Lawsuit is well, I guess we should we'll try to make it boilerplate in terms of the lawsuit. This is the third lawsuit filed this year, and it says that black workers were addressed using racial slurs, and they had talked to the company about it, saying, "Hey, this is wrong." Company ignored them, and this again, third, number three, one, two, three, and apparently, and this is a quote. Uh, Tesla, which of course is a car company that Elon Musk has made, apparently it's a hotbed for racist behavior. A hotbed. Not like, oh, it's, I mean, we all have white friends. That was one dumb mistake. They didn't mean it. A hotbed. Hotbed for racist behavior. So this is, it's a shame. It really is because Tesla is a car that is much better for the environment than just about any car that you see on the road today. Uh, Musk has done a lot of good things. A lot of things also as a space nerd myself. A lot of things I'm excited about. Going to Mars and all that stuff. Um, so this sucks. This sucks. What's your take on it, Miss Sociology Professor?
It's not surprising at all. It's common everywhere, sadly, until we're socialized, till we change our culture. This is part of our culture. I'm in the thick right now of my culture, my race chapter, and trying to get them to realize as students that, racial discrimination is the norm in our society. That's what we're focused on changing, but it's the norm that even if we got rid of individuals, every individual person, if we got rid of their racism, the system is still racist. And so it doesn't surprise me. What does surprise me is his fucking response, which is to be thick-skinned and accept an apology. Like, which is pretty much like, sorry you're offended, guys. You just need to grow some thicker skin. It was just a joke. Fuck that. No. No.
That we won't use that as a lead-in for one of the other things we're going to talk about, but that reminds me of one of the other things we're going to talk about, and racist racist comics, racist comedians.
Yes.
But this, and we did like a whole segment. It was like an impromptu segment a few shows ago about my list. But it just sucks. Like, how many people in Hollywood, and most of them are obviously white, and most of the ones who get a chance to do anything are white. Do we have to be? Oh well, I don't like you anymore. Like, I heard Bryan Cranston was trying to defend some of the sexual abuse.
Oh, don't say it. No, not Bryan Cranston.
I know,
Damn it.
right?
Now I gotta go look it up.
He played Buzz Aldrin from Rio to the Moon. If anybody remembers that, I
He's a
adored
lot.
that.
He's a lot more than that.
I know. I'm saying the space nerd. You know, for the 5 people who know this reference.
Yeah, I don't know that reference.
In fact, the man who played Neil Armstrong in that played. I don't know if he's still on, but he played the president on Scandal. So yeah, he also. I can't remember this guy's name. I should know his name. The guy who played Armstrong from the Earth to the Moon also played a garbage man who dated Roz on Frasier.
Oh God.
This is why.
Oh, I even know that. I know exactly who that is.
Yes. This is why we have the show, ladies and gentlemen. But it sucks. He was saying Weinstein, and I can't remember. I think it was Spacey. You know, they deserve a second chance. What?
I just saw that. Yes, I did just see that. Apparently, though, before we go on, I just got a tweet that it's harder to hear this episode than others. So I don't know if our fill-in producer can maybe do something about that.
Harder to hear this episode.
Yeah, that our volume's not at its normal levels.
See, we're gonna try to.
I'll speak up.
Our own producers here.
I just
See
brought you guys up. Try that.
But we can't continue though. We'll just talk a little louder.
Yeah, we'll just talk louder. That's what we'll do. We have a. There we go.
Thank you. Yay. Say hello to our fill-in producer, Steve. No problem.
Well, that's FCC regulations. We can't do that. We just you have to be okay with Gal and I. Yeah.
Oh no, we are very appreciative of you today, Steve, as a fill-in producer.
Yes, we appreciate all our producers. So right now, our favorite is Steve. Next week, our favorite will be Tim again.
Yes, of course.
So, yes, but I would, to say the response to Cranston, how many chances do they need? So it's like the second chance doesn't come in until you're caught.
Right.
They've been doing this over and over and over and over and over and over again, but give them a second chance. We're on chance number 596 for Weinstein. Ridiculous.
For all of these guys, though. I mean, so just since it's become public knowledge, were plenty of rumors throughout the past, and we'll get to some of those in another segment as well. That doesn't necessarily, I mean, these were their chances. They had warnings to stop, and they continued going on with them. They never did anything to stop their behavior. At what point how many other chances do they need?
Apparently,
the same people who were saying this, by the way, and I'm going to bring up the hypocrisy on all of this. And I generally don't talk politics on this show because it is pop culture. But the same people who are saying, like Bryan Cranston, who I'm a big fan of Bryan Cranston, so this breaks my heart. They'll be the first ones to say, Roy Moore needs to drop out of the Senate race because of the sexual assault allegations, which he absolutely should. But it's this double standard that somebody they like deserves another chance. Somebody they don't like is just automatically blacklisted. It's the same thing with having Mitch McConnell come out against Roy Moore, yet he never came out against Trump, who has 19 sexual assault cases against him. I mean, the hypocrisy with all of this, whether it's Trump, whether it's Roy Moore, or any of the Hollywood people that we've been bringing up regularly that every day we get more and more of, or whether it's like Julian Assange, you can't have this kind of like one group of people who are somewhat better and somehow don't count when they have allegations against them just because you like them more. It doesn't work that way.
It really doesn't. The
And
sad thing is it works that way in this society.
Right, it does, and it shouldn't. You can't look at one and go, "Oh, that one's horrible. We need to impeach that person. We need to get rid of that person." But then look at the other and go, "Well, it's probably a lie for him, but not the other guys." It doesn't work that way. Only 2% of sexual assault allegations are false accusations. 2%. And for people that want to say, why don't people come out beforehand? You're seeing the reasons why women's lives, men's lives involved in this, we'll talk about that in segment 2, are destroyed when they bring this out. They are the ones who are destroyed because they're ruining, this perfect image that people have of those in Hollywood or those in, well, nobody should have a perfect image of anybody in politics, but it's their entire lives change, not just after being assaulted, but then coming out with those assaults changes everything for them, their whole lives. And so I'm glad that we're having this national conversation. It needs to be had. It needs to continue. But these kind of second chances, third chances, we can't, those are not the type of responses that need to be had.
And you brought up politics. There was a woman in Congress. She came out yesterday as Jackie Speier. I could have that name right. She came out and said, "Hey, there are 2 members of Congress serving right now, both parties, who have been subject to review." I'm quoting her: "Subject to review, or have not been subject to review, but have engaged in sexual harassment." Engaged in sexual harassment, 2 current members of Congress, and she's from my state of California. And I've heard that before, that not as a specific naming somebody, like obviously no names are used, but it's specifically, okay, there's one and there's another, so there's 2. But I've heard that men in Congress would do things like this, and have done things like this for a long time. But like you said, Gal, the Me Too movement, I guess you could say, is allowing women to have less fear about the consequences of actually being honest about the hell that they have had to deal with.
Right. Find me a profession where it hasn't happened, where it's not the norm, because you're not going to find one. I mean, I work in academia and it's the fucking norm, and it's just annoying as hell. And it's always with, whether it's somebody who is tenured to adjuncts or even fucking professors to students, is just disgusting. Yet it's just the norm. It may not be the norm as much anymore as in the past, but even in the past week or 2, somebody has said something to me where I just have to think, really, this is still fucking happening? And find me any profession, especially a profession that is, dominated by men. Whereas maybe you might have nursing that's dominated by women. Again, not saying women cannot do this, because they absolutely are, or can and do. This is not just, a one-way street, but it's more about a position of power than it is anything else. Who's in power? Who has that ability? If it's the janitor, nothing against janitors at all. I praise janitors as somebody who works at a university. I would never go to the school if there weren't janitors.
They should get a raise.
They absolutely should. But if the janitor said something to me that made me uncomfortable, I probably would report that easily. if it's somebody who is tenured above me or a dean or anything along those, I know for a fact that I wouldn't, because I haven't. And I've learned my lesson on that, as somebody who had actually put me in that position turned out to then put students in that position. And I had to clean up the mess while also being a victim of the situation. So it was rough. So I've learned lessons from it. We all do, because it comes to the point of, well, if I say something, am I going to look petty, or is it going to be that I don't take a joke, even though you know it's not a joke? But that's the terms that you hear, right? So find me a profession where this is not the norm, where this does not happen every single day. That's why you see so many people saying me too, because, whether it's politics or anywhere else, it's there, sadly. I am glad that, again, I'm going to keep saying, I'm glad that we're having the national conversation. I'm glad people are talking about it, because that's the only way it's going to stop. Being made aware of the issue is the only way it's going to stop.
And I would like to say again, I think I said it on a different show. A black woman came up with the phrase "Me Too." A black woman did this. It was Tarana Burke. Tarana Burke. This is 10 years ago, and it was a large focus on women of color because, as we see with this Me Too movement, just like the Women's March and everything else, we're focusing only on white women and also cisgendered white women. The abuse that transgendered women have to face is off the charts, especially for black women. And it was not founded by the woman in a Red Slurs apparel, Washington Red Slurs. I'm never going to say that name. It's as bad as the N word. Alyssa Milano. She did not start this. She happened to get a little more credo with it after Miss Burke put it on the table. And I don't think Milano has given any credit to Burke. Maybe she has. I just haven't seen it. Hopefully.
I think she has.
She has? Thankfully, good. And as you were saying about power, obviously, that similar to racism, the people in power are men. That's what the power is. But also, when you're a child, there's a dude by the name of Darius McCray or McCary. Macari? Is it the dude from Family Matters?
Macari, I think.
Macari. That is confusing. Why is the R that close to the start of the name? Anyway, he says he was inappropriately touched when he was a child star. But then he also says that I'm not thirsty enough to name names. So I just brought up Milano, that feminism hypocrisy you see from white women. And now, wait a minute, we got a dude who's saying that if you're naming anybody, you're just trying to get more famous. So then you have a dude, just saying some ignorant stuff despite the trauma that he faced early in his life. And this kind of goes to the all-encompassing colonial state that we still live in, and also just that power aspect. And I'm sure partly Darius, and I'm just taking an educated guess, he may be a little scared to name names, and I don't blame him. I'll blame him for what he said. Especially because the people who abused all these different folks, sadly, like Darius, they should have consequences. They should be going to jail. They should be going to prison. So, if we don't know the names, we can't put them in jail. And but again, I understand that when you are a victim, that is a very difficult thing to do. And I'm very appreciative of all the people who've come out and named their attackers. Terry Crews named, he said it in plain English, I was assaulted by Adam Bennett, who's an agent in Hollywood. So this is something that certainly needs to end in terms of the abuse. And the only way you can end anything if you have an honest conversation about what's really going on.
And I think it's important to bring up Terry Crews' allegations as well, in the sense that we don't talk about how men are sexually assaulted as well as women. And I'm proud of Terry Crews for having the nerve to stand up, because most of the time, men, when they do report things, whether it's rape or sexual assault or sexual harassment, are laughed at, even, specifically by police. I've seen it occur multiple times, but also by their own friends, their family. And we know that women, don't necessarily get support from their friends and their family, but they get more support than men do, because we're raised in a society where men are taught that they're supposed to want sex from everybody and they're supposed to enjoy this kind of treatment. And of course, with Terry Crews' case, is with another man. And he explains it in great detail, actually, in this. I think he explained it this morning, actually. Yeah, it's today. I think it was on the Today Show. Or Good Morning America. He said he was with his wife at a party in February of last year when he saw Bennett, whom he said he had never met before, making crude gestures at him with his tongue. Quote, "I'm looking and I'm like, is this a joke?" Crews said. And he comes over to me, I stick my hand out, and he literally takes his hand and puts it and squeezes my genitals. And I jump back like, hey, hey. And he's still sticking his tongue out. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then he comes back again. He said that he had pushed him away, and then it took everything in him to not pretty much beat the hell out of him, is what he said. And I think Terry Crews could probably take him.
Probably.
He's a big guy. But, I mean, just to have the nerve to come out is I'm proud of that. I mean, I don't think that it matters that I'm proud of it, but along the lines of good, thank you. So maybe other men will speak up as well and not feel isolated or alone, or that they've done something wrong, just as we see with women who are in this situation.
1 in 6 men have experienced abusive sexual experiences before the age of 18. And this is according to 1in6.org. A 2003 national study reported that 14% of men were sexually abused before the age of 18. That's a lot higher number than anybody would guess or even want to admit.
Yeah. Just like we know 10% of those who are raped are men. And again, that number is only going to be those that are admitting it. So we know that number is much higher. Very similar to when it comes to rape as a whole, we aren't ever going to have an actual number. Because everybody's, especially, people are afraid of being told that they're lying, or that they're the ones who are going to be persecuted if they are not persecuted, but prosecuted if they were to take it to trial. And so I've used one military study, and I don't have it in front of me at this point, but a military study showing how many men in the Marines admit to being sexually assaulted as well, which then often leads to eating disorders, which is a whole nother category in which men get overlooked.
Yeah, I can only imagine in the military. I've read my own share of research, but that's another thing. That who knows how rampant that is. It's just troubling to say the least. But the bright side is that there are people actually coming forward now, which is huge. And I got nothing but a smile for Terry Crews, just like Gal. So it's very, very good to see someone like Terry coming out, especially because he, like you referenced his size and strength. Someone with his personality and his body type and the way he is in movies and TV, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't want people to think of him as a weak guy. And sadly, when you think of victim and rape victim, you think, oh, well, they're weak. Well, no, that's not true. So this took a lot of courage for him to actually come out and admit what happened. more power to you, brother. That was not an easy thing to do, what he did, and admit that. On the other end of the scale, there's a gentleman who I used to enjoy a great deal, Robert Sylvester Kelly, also known as R. Kelly. And Gal wanted to bring this up for a couple of reasons.
Oh, there are so many reasons. But I think the biggest reason is for over a decade, you have had Black women come out with sexual assault allegations for R. Kelly, and they're always ignored. He still has sold out shows everywhere he goes. When's the last time he even released something? I don't even know.
It's been a few years.
Yeah. It has. Yet, there are a constant array of women who have been assaulted by him, many underage. I mean, if I recall, was it Aaliyah?
Really?
No, I'm asking you, do you remember?
No,
I don't want to use that one.
I do not.
I will be able to give you that information in just a second. I'm almost positive it was Aaliyah
who
married him before she was of age.
I thought you meant something that he heard her.
No, I meant was that R. Kelly?
Oh, okay. Actually, I don't even remember that because I was a little younger.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a little bit before your
Secret
time.
marriage, yeah, the secret marriage. Oh, 15. Jeez,
yeah.
Kelly, what the hell's wrong with you, man?
It is absolutely R. Kelly, and that is not the only person that he has had sexual relationships with under the age of 18, 15. Yeah, actually, the information I see is what she was 13 when she met him. 14. There it is. 14. Married her when she was 15. Think about that.
I didn't even know that. Secret marriage? How did they go to the Cayman Islands to pull that off?
It's a secret marriage until I think it was until they got divorced. It had to be secret because she was underage and he didn't. This was during the time that he was his most famous. I mean,
they go to like Kentucky?
I have no idea. I remember, so Lifetime did a movie on Aaliyah, and I'm not going to base anything on that because if I recall, it was Wendy Williams who put that together, and I am going to keep my opinions on Wendy Williams to myself because they're not nice. Not that anything else is we talk about, but it wasn't necessarily done properly, and it was against the family's wishes. But I do remember watching it before I'd learned that because it was the night that it came out, and they had discussed, again, not saying that this is exactly what happened, of course, this is a dramatized version, and Aaliyah is not here to defend herself or not, right? So everything's going to be hearsay along these lines. But I remember it was something, had gotten the okay from the parents, and then wherever they were allowed that, whatever state it was. And many states do allow you if you have the okay from the parents. But usually it's 16, but they could have, I don't exactly remember where. I have to look now.
I didn't even know that. I mean, I knew Kelly was a disgusting human being, but jeez.
It was an illegal marriage as well. There we go.
We have too many people to kick out this week.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've
Here it is. Aaliyah was 15 at the time, but she listed 18 on the marriage certificate. That's why it's illegal. Therefore, it was annulled. They did not have the okay from the parents. The parents annulled it in 1995, less than a year later. See, that movie was way off. Fuck you, Wendy Williams.
Most movies. I mean, the new Tupac movie, it came out a few months ago. That was totally.
Did you watch it?
I didn't watch it on that principle because once Jada, who is now a Scientologist, Aaron Levin Smith, Aaron Smith Levin. I'm pulling I'm doing two tangents at once. Bear with me, listeners. There's a video of Marty Rathburn who left the church and then condemned the church publicly and then has come back and now is attacking anybody who attacks the church. he kept calling Aaron Levin Smith over and over in this attack video that he did. And so I watched part of it, and I also heard Aaron talk about the video. So when I use Aaron's full name, I get a little confused because I'm like, wait, no, the correct way is Aaron Smith Levin. But anyway, Aaron Smith Levin was our guest last week. He was a 30-year veteran of Scientology before he left the church, over 30-year veteran. He said Jada Pinkett Smith is a Scientologist. And back to the original point, sorry for that long tangent. Jada came out, who was a very good friend of Tupac Shakur, came out and said the movie was inaccurate. It was a little disrespectful to Tupac. So I didn't see it, but
I rely on people who actually know the person as well,
yeah,
and I'll take them over, whoever's made a
you
film
like this
to make
one,
money.
the Saving Mr. Banks, the grandniece, I think, of Walt Disney came out after that movie came out. She said, "Yeah, that dude was an anti-Semite. What are you whitewashing this?" I'm still mad at Tom. I'm like everybody else. I love Tom Hanks. I mean, who doesn't? But after that, I'm on the fence. I'm sorry. Especially if you know anything about Walt Disney. Walt Disney was also an FBI informant trying to fight communism. Capitalism is
Right.
great. Communism, that's a whole other story. But yeah, that happens all the time with movies. In fact, I would say one of the most racist movies of the last 10 years or so, I think won Best Picture. I know it won Best Actor. I believe Sally Field was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Chime in, gal, if you know what film I'm talking about. Daniel Day-Lewis was the lead star in that.
Lincoln?
There you go. Even IMDb describes Lincoln and how he was portrayed in the movie as a hero. And if you know anything about Lincoln, he was a white supremacist who is still responsible for the largest mass hanging in U.S. history. 40 Native people were killed. And he said that black people, not good people. Black people, not good people. I'll just leave it at that. You can look that up. It's a 1958 debate between him and Douglas for the presidency. Look it up. Full detail. But that's the point. J. Edgar Hoover, Leonardo DiCaprio, the big.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one. I wanted to watch it in one sense just to see how they did it. Because I'm not going to lie, Leo's a good actor. He may not be my favorite person because of other things.
Actor, yeah.
I give him, he is a good actor. But in the second hand, it's all like, oh, fucking Hoover, man. Are they going to glorify him? And so I never watched it. I think I own it, but I've never watched it. Not legally. I mean, everything's legal. Of course it's legal. It must be on Netflix. Yeah, that's where I must have got it.
Okay, yes, it was Netflix. Anybody listening, it was Netflix. But that movie, the big hubbub in the movie in the controversy was him, and if I'm not mistaken, because I haven't seen it, I've just read a little bit about it, is him possibly being gay and a cross-dresser and all this stuff.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, not the fact he helped kill Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and helped quash the civil rights movement. None of that. No, we're not going to talk about that. So, and that's how most movies are. Most of these movies, true to either true to life or what do you call it, based on a true story. A lot of times, I'm not going to say like all the time because there's some movies. Apollo 13, which is still my favorite movie, 20 some years later. Speaking of Mr. Hanks.
All right, if we're on this topic, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you seen Selma?
You know what, I didn't because
I would recommend that for the next show because I would like to know your. I found it to be very well done.
Can I drink while I watch it?
Oh, it's hard to watch. I understand. It took me at least.
That's why I didn't watch it.
The first scene is the most horrible thing I've ever, and it's the most horrible thing anybody's probably ever seen because we know exactly what it is already as soon as it starts. It's the 4 little girls.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Okay.
And I will tell you now that it took me 3 separate tries to get through that first 10 minutes. But
first 10 minutes.
It is a movie that I recommend to my students. I give them an extra credit chance to watch it because it is. Is it perfect? No, but it is one of the more accurate films I've ever seen.
99 on Rotten Tomatoes. Granted, that doesn't mean anything. A Birth of a Nation, the Klan film, that has 100. But I've heard similar things. And one reason why the movie's so good, Ava DuVernay, director.
Yeah, who's now doing a Disney film.
Yeah, Wrinkle in Time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Ava. I'm not. Oh, I got your
Because
point.
it's Disney?
Yeah, because it's Disney.
Well,
I'm always looking forward to her. I love her.
Can we do a quick? Well, I'm going to just because this is a black film. I want to name some of the awards that it won. Just because we don't win or aren't allowed to win or nominated for these awards very often. Best original song, which is not as easy to do because it added some hip hop flavor to the song. John Legend and Common, one rapper and R&B star.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite songs. That's on my playlist I listen to in the mornings.
Beautiful song. Best Picture was nominated for. It was,
and that was during the year of Oscars So White, when it was literally the only picture that was nominated.
That's how we get our films nominated. It has to be about our pain. It has to be about our genocide.
Right. That is the only time we see it.
And Sloane Cornelius came on, is a wonderful Native activist and educator. She was talking about our premiere show. She was talking about how there's no TV shows where a Native person moves to the big city and makes it big, and no other people in this country are more erased in general, or let alone in the entertainment industry, than Native people. But as for my folks, when you're talking about trying to have a film made, have it be huge advertising all over the place, billboards, trailers, blah blah blah. Usually, 9 times out of 10, for that thing to get nominated, it has to be about our pain. It's not. You're not going to see. It's rare if it's just all right. Here's a black dude or a black woman, and they're a doctor, or here they are. It's a sci-fi film or something. And what the sci-fi film After Earth with Jaden Smith and Will Smith. That was the sci-fi film we were allowed to make that year. I still say that film, that Will film that in the backyard of his house with a $200 million budget. Still contend that that's what happened.
Anything where Jaden Smith is in, I have to.
He did do one. There's a show. I don't know if it's if it's still on. The Get Down on Netflix.
Yeah. Was he in that?
Yeah, he's in that. It's very well done. It's entertaining. It's fun. But there's a couple. I just want to name a couple more. That Selma won. Top 10 movies of the year by American Film Institute. It won that. Cinema for Peace Award, Most Valuable Film of the Year, first place. Golden Globes again, Best Original Song. This is a film that I know it's well done. National Board of Review, a Freedom of Expression Award. It's just it's gonna take some guts for me to watch it. This is why I don't watch movies about slavery unless it's retribution films like Django, because it just brings up too much trauma. Like I said, I had a rant to begin one of our previous shows about the rise of the War for the Planet of the Apes, whatever it was called, the newest one they made. And it just set off my intergenerational trauma like it's never been set off before. And I was crying in the theater, for God's sake. So, I'll never watch 12 Years a Slave.
I've never been able to watch it either.
Beloved, I don't think I can get through that.
I've never been able to get through Django Unchained.
Well, it gets.
And I know I need to. No, I know you've told me. I know I need to.
Oh yeah, and if any Jewish folks listening, make sure.
I finally got through Inglorious. Yeah.
Oh man, oh my gosh.
They're just movies that take me a little while to get through because I get so mad at the reality aspect of it. Of course,
oh cool. Well, we never watch anything with what we know. We wouldn't watch.
Absolutely.
Anything. I wouldn't watch Django or Inglourious Basterds again because I know every time Tarantino says the word nigger, he has an orgasm. So
You're not wrong. That's
yeah,
I'm not a Tarantino fan. Just one of the
I'm not
reasons.
either. It's like
But it's not to
Polanski.
say he doesn't
Like,
make good movies. I just
oh,
don't
that's what I
like the
mean.
man.
It's like with Polanski, Tarantino. I'm like, man, you all are really talented. Your movies are really good, but
Oh God, Polanski.
horrible human beings.
That's what I always hear people with Woody Allen too. First of all, I've
Oh,
never even enjoyed a Woody Allen film, and yeah, I had tried to watch him. I was forced to when film was my minor in college,
oh yeah, yeah. He
which
is.
was the only time I ever saw Birth of a Nation because they forced us to watch that too.
Was Triumph of the Will the next film you had to watch?
No,
Oh, it's just a guess. Just a guess.
I remember. I think that was my first introduction to Birth of a Nation. Like I didn't even know what it was before then. I was like 18 years old, and it was the 90s. Like we just cared about Vanilla Ice and shit, and Tupac, and Tupac, and Biggie. Right.
I was not allowed to listen to hip hop until I was 14. I was born in '87, so that means I didn't know who Tupac was until after he died.
I just want to state that I really didn't have any kind of limitations like that put on me. But as I got older, and it was probably in the last 5 years where I went and I listened and watched on YouTube like videos from the 80s and 90s, from my childhood. And Salt and Peppa's Push It came on, and I remember singing that
Oh,
song
okay.
when I was 5. Like, and that's when it came out because I was born in '80. And saying the words again, and I'm going, oh my God, a 5-year-old, I was singing this. Oh, I should not have been able to listen to this song. Of course, I didn't know what it meant, right?
Well, of course not. Of course not. That's a whole nother subject. The trickiness of parenting.
Right.
What do
Yeah.
you let them see? What do you? Because my parents were the opposite. I was barred from watching so much.
I
It
was only
took
barred from watching 2 movies ever until I turned 18. Everything else was open. 2 movies were
which were.
Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, okay.
Now, I want to state that that was probably because I had already had this massive obsession with serial killers and true crime from the age of 8. So it was probably a smart idea.
Yeah.
And the other one was Apocalypse Now.
Oh,
And it's interesting because when I was young, the first movies I remember watching were like Platoon and really any Vietnam movie. My father is a disabled Vietnam veteran.
right.
And I mean, one of the first movies I remember watching is Platoon. Now, if you've ever seen Platoon, a 6-year-old should not be watching that.
No, no, no. A
So
16-year-old. That's an
it's hard
issue
to watch,
even.
yeah. And I mean, all of the films. And in the 80s, you had all kinds of Vietnam films coming out, right? It's a decade after. All the films are being made. Hamburger Hill, oh my God. I still, to this day, as an adult, have tried to get through that movie, and I can't. I just cry halfway through. But I wasn't allowed to watch Apocalypse Now. I turned 18. That was the first thing I did because it was that rebellion, right? Since I didn't really have any other limitations, I didn't really go against it either. There had to be a reason. And I cried and cried and cried after watching Apocalypse Now, going, thank you for not letting me watch that as a kid. And then, asking my dad questions like, is it really like this? It was emotional. And I was like, I have never watched it since. Fantastic movie. Very well done.
It was a hell of a movie.
Hard.
My grandfather, one of my grandfathers, he was in World War II. He was actually 100 miles from where the flag got put up in Iwo Jima at the exact time, and I would always try to ask him about it. And as you know, Galda, I'm very interested in World War II, especially Nazi Germany. Just a tragic fascination. And so I would always ask my grandpa about it, and he would never answer. He'd just say, "I got to go in the other room," or "I got to go take out the trash." Or I remember the last time I asked him was I was doing a report. You have to interview somebody in your family, so I was like, "Oh, grandpa," because of World War II. And he's like, "No, no, ask your grandma." And I didn't really get it because I was a kid. I was like, why don't you, it's war. War's cool,
Right. Yeah. Same way.
boys. But he was at my dad's baptism. And I guess the pastor was talking to him about it. And my grandpa broke down. He just broke down and started crying. And the horrors of war, you people have no idea. If you're not actually in the dang thing, and I've never been, you just don't know. It's horrible. I don't know.
I have to agree. Yeah, my dad wouldn't openly talk about it, but he's got severe PTSD, and so he would talk about it in his sleep. He'd wake up in the middle of the night, grab his gun, and start shooting. Yeah, it was fun. Fun time. Until we got him properly medicated, which was probably 2 years after the first diagnosis. And like that would be the only time there were times where he would just start talking in his sleep, so you could ask him questions then, and he would answer them honestly.
Wow.
Still to this day, he'll talk in his sleep, and he'll be back in the jungles. And you're just like, oh, here we go. And now it's normal for us. But then when it was first starting, it was rough.
I can imagine. That
still don't get a lot of discussion. Occasionally like a movie will be on, or he'll be watching something, and he'll be like, yeah, I remember this time when, and he'll talk a little bit, but it never goes into good, not good detail, great detail. Like, you don't hear a lot about it.
Jeez. That's wow. And PTSD is so under talked about. It's ridiculous.
It's so much more talked about now than it was when he was first diagnosed in the late 80s.
True.
In the late 80s, when you would say it, it was still a new term. It was always known as shell shock. Up until that point, it was seen as something that's just expected. It has been phenomenal, the amount of attention that has been. You're right that it's still under talked about, but the change just in 30 years is amazing to see. The fact that people know what it is when you say PTSD compared to 1995, even 1996, even when I started college, people didn't know what it meant. So it is good to see this kind of awareness towards it.
That reminds me of football.
Yes. How does that remind you of football?
Because I remember there was this quarterback who I'm still a fan of. His name was Jim McMahon. He played for the Chicago Bears. He's a quarterback of the 1985 Bears, the famous 85 Bears. And they even had a song, the Super Bowl Shuffle. And this guy, one of his eyes was messed up because when he was a kid, they were playing a game, I think it was a knife or a fork or something, and it got in his eye. So he would always wear sunglasses, even in interviews. He's on David Letterman and anything. And anybody who knows football, and some people don't, may know Mike Ditka. He's the guy who said racism ended 100 years ago. It's on ESPN NFL Countdown, I think, even to this day. And there was one game they were playing, and McMahon got knocked the heck out. And he's a quarterback. He's a guy dropping back to pass. Ball is in his hands every play. And he got knocked out. He didn't know if it was Wednesday, Sunday, Friday, or what. And he goes to the sideline. And the doctor's like, "You all right to play? You all right to play? What's my name? No, I can play. Let's play." And Dick was like, "Yeah, put it back in. And they were talking about how that next week or the next day in the news, how just out of it he was. And it's like, will he play next week? So this reminds me of football because even today, Tom Brady last year, his wife said that he had multiple concussions, which is actually illegal by NFL rules. And the Patriots didn't get in trouble for that. But that male macho mindset to be tough and persevere through anything, it's very toxic. And saying PTSD isn't real. I saw somebody say depression is a choice. I saw somebody on Facebook say today, and he like tens of thousands of people were liking or favorite or commenting. It's all over it on Facebook. He said, I am sick of homophobia in the black community. It's disgusting. It needs to stop, and we need to stop it. Yeah, male macho colonized BS. And we need, as men, we need to decolonize our penis. We need to decolonize our penis. I will say it again. And speaking of Facebook, there is a game that I know many people play. And Gal plays this, has played the hell out of this so far after she got it. Call of Duty. I played it a couple versions ago, and and a few other versions. But there's a little controversy going on in the game, and it involves lynching. But Gal, you're the one who played the game, so I'll let you talk about what you saw.
I haven't seen the specific scene yet. It's in the campaign, and I've been playing multiplayer since it came out. But I have seen, like, when you first brought it up, I didn't necessarily believe it. Mainly because there was this kind of Sledgehammer, the maker of this specific Call of Duty, World War II, tiptoed around using swastikas in the multiplayer mode because it offended Nazis. I want you to think about that for a minute. It offended Nazis, so they couldn't show it because it. So then you get, outrage on both sides there. It's not historically accurate. Then there's still a controversy over the fact that you can make your character a woman, and women weren't allowed to fight in World War II, so it's not historically accurate. You're also fighting zombies, by the way. We don't need to talk about that. So it wasn't until I saw the video that Nolan had sent me yesterday that I realized it was in the campaign, where there is this scene, probably a split scene from it, where it looks as though two black men are lynched by the Nazis. And I looked into it. I looked into the video, like, yep, that's definitely there. I haven't seen much written on it other than some of the stuff written on Twitter and things like that. I saw a few people calling for a boycott because of it. And that's where I would have to have a lot of questions. Because as we've discussed even on this show before, when we talk about World War II and we talk about the Holocaust, we tend to only talk about the Jewish casualties. And yes, there were 6 million Jewish casualties, but there were other casualties as well that always get looked over, whether it was homosexuals, transgender individuals, you had the Romas, you have so many different groups of people who were also included and sent to the concentration camps and also viciously murdered because of just their skin color or their ethnicity or even their religion. And we talk about the fact that that's never discussed, that's never brought up in movies, it's never brought up, and it's finally actually represented in something like Call of Duty, a video game. But why do we want to boycott it when it's actually being historically relevant? And it is my question.
Yeah, and my first reaction, because it's a lynching, so my first reaction was like, and it was out of context, so I didn't know why it was in the game or if it's what do the kids say? I'm 30 now, so I'm not a kid anymore. Apparently, what do the kids say? Mod. A different mod is that somebody put that game and edited it.
Yeah.
So I didn't know
they
what.
modded it.
Yeah. But apparently this is in the campaign, and as anybody who's friends with me, follows me on Twitter, heard me speak, whatever, listen to the show. Black folks, we were in the Holocaust, and we, in some respects, were treated worse than the Jewish people by Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. In fact, we were Hitler's famous sterilization projects. We were the number one target of that project, not the Jewish people. And the Jewish people were treated so horribly, it's hard to fathom to this day. So to see that in a game that's about World War II, one of the worst things ever happened to this planet, it's accurate. And Yao, you were saying, yeah, there's no swastikas in the game.
There is in the campaign mode.
There's in the campaign?
They just took them out of the multiplayer one.
Okay.
That doesn't make any sense either.
Well, that's much better.
There's so many reasons to boycott this game that this isn't one of them.
This isn't one of them.
I mean, there are so many. The servers were fucked. They're making us pay for things. Like, there's plenty of things wrong with it. I'm not gonna lie, I've enjoyed it, but there's been a lot of hiccups with it. And hell, you couldn't play for like the first 2 days and all these other reasons. But one, if you're gonna, complain about historical accuracy, for having women as your characters, about a game that has Nazi zombies, I have a problem with that, like, really. But then there is actual historical accuracy, and they did very well with that from what I've read. I haven't gone into the campaign. I read an article today, I have to find it again real quick, about how hard it was for them to actually kind of make it look like World War II, and like with the like the concentration camps, and why they chose not to necessarily show them the way like Band of Brothers did. And they actually worked with the guys from Band of Brothers, the show, and talked about how hard it would have been to do in a video game, like how it would be too cartoonish or not come off correctly. So they put a lot of thought into a lot of their scenes like this. So I think that this wasn't, there is historical accuracy there. We know how often it occurred during this time period, that they're showing the horrors of it. And should it be in a game? It's a game called World War II.
Yeah.
Call of Duty's had a lot of controversy in many of their games. I think it was Modern Warfare 2, many years back, that had a scene where you go into an airport and basically you just commit a mass shooting. Now, I never even played that game because of that one. I was like, that's just too much. Because it was.
I remember that. Yeah.
It's hard to play these types of games anyway, especially somebody who studied mass shootings for so long and can talk about gun violence, but at the same time also know that video games doesn't have anything to do with that. But and then you get blamed on that all the time. I remember after Sandy Hook, I couldn't pick the game up again because I always get the new one for at least the last 7 years, even if I only play it for a month. But it's the only game I buy. It's just that one thing that my guilty pleasure. But after Sandy Hook, I couldn't pick up the game. I didn't pick it up again for a long time. It was too hard. And maybe it shouldn't have been, but it was for me. But when I think this one's so different for people for the last few years, because, the last at least 4 years has all been about this kind of futuristic warfare. So there's not anything really about being realistic or historically accurate, because it's new stuff. You got jetpacks and shit. And now we have one that goes back to Call of Duty's roots, which is World War II. The first 6 versions were all in was all in World War II. I think 6. That's a guess right there. The last one being World at War, which is my favorite one, which is why I was excited for this one. That were all pretty, they were decent, but so much has changed since I think that game came out in 2007 or 2008. So much in gaming has changed, just like so much in movies has changed. CGI has changed. Look at how far technology's come from since then. So I can see how it might shock people. But the people who are playing this are mostly young white guys. They just are. And this is what they need to see to understand that history. They need this in front of their face. They need to understand how it occurred and what occurred.
You're absolutely right. And I will use it as a parallel for the whole ball of wax. Slavery, native genocide, Jim Crow, continued native genocide to this day. What we had to endure in the civil rights movement, and what our killings present day. We don't. We don't need. I don't need to see. I don't need to see Jason Pirro get killed if the video comes out. I don't need to see that.
Right.
But white folks need to see that.
Absolutely right.
And
I struggle with this when I show 13th, because I make sure every one of my students sees 13th. And I struggle with it with the last 20 minutes of the movie, which is showing Eric Garner and Philando Castile and all the videos. And I showed it once all the way through in my race and ethnicity class, and I had 3 young women of color who just broke down crying. One had to leave, and I was like, I can't do this to my students.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this group, I completely know that the majority of my students, at least this semester, the majority of my students are white, and they need to see that last 20 minutes. But I'm still not going to put my other students through it. And so I cut it off at that point. I tell them to please watch it at home. I can't force them to.
Yeah, what do? All right, class, we're going to segregate the class.
Right, yeah. And so I struggled with it for a while. Like, I want them to see this film. I want them to see that this isn't just a Democrat or a Republican thing, how it's an American, our criminal justice system, all that. I want them to see all of this. I want them to understand it. I want them to see that last 20 minutes, but even oh my God, once that 2 students broke down, then I broke down, and then class is just all fucked up. You can't cry in front of your class, it's just whole day just gone. And so I don't show that last 20 minutes anymore if I have and I have students of color in all of my classes. And so I won't do it. I won't re-traumatize them. So I can understand where people are saying they don't need to see that, especially, people of color. But I also can see where the majority of people who play this game, and by majority, I think it's 80%, are white males who do need to see it because they haven't had to see it any other time. They don't have to talk about it. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to know any other history on this. So I can see how it is a controversial issue. But we can't complain that people don't know about other groups that were attacked by the Nazis and killed by the Nazis, and complain that it's not in movies and it's not talked about enough. And then when the one time that it happens, all of a sudden it's wrong, and we can't look at it that way. It's hypocritical. As long as it's tasteful, and that, how do you even say tasteful? That's not necessarily the best word there, but done well. In the sense of how is it in the right sense? Is it showing it in the right sense? And the video I saw, I looked at a couple of them, showed it well done.
Yeah, that's the whole thing is tricky in general when you're discussing these things. As I got deeper into the movement, the idea of black only spaces or native only spaces or colored only spaces or black women only spaces became more apparent, and I realized, wait, these are needed things, while at the same time I feel bad for white people who aren't with the 67+% of white America who are racist, who actually care about us, who actually, especially who work with us to try to get us out of this mess. But at the same time, I'm not so much going to be apologetic about it, because we need these things. Because there are times, and as we had a Nat Turner segment on one of our past shows, where I don't want to see another white person for another 5 hours or 2 weeks, just like because of all the things I've had to deal with from white folks in this country. But and talking about what needs to be seen by white people, these things, yeah, definitely need to be seen. But then, of course, yeah, if you have a class with more than white people, then yeah, what do you do? It's a quandary. And I have to see the U.S. National Holocaust Museum, the National Holocaust Museum, the number one, like the most popular, well-known Holocaust museum in the country, lie to the public by saying there was no mass extermination plan for black people in Nazi Germany, when that's not what happened. We would, as I said just before, we were the number one target of Hitler's sterilization program. So it's one thing when white people don't see it. It's another thing when white people it's hidden, and then there's lies about it. And if you study, and I'll end the Black Holocaust or Black people in the Holocaust, whatever you want to title it, segment on this. Keep in mind, when we entered the camps, with the same camps the Jewish people were in, when we entered the camps, they segregated us from the Jewish people. The very people that Adolf Hitler said were the scum of the earth, the worst people ever, the eternal Jew, Joseph Goebbels, the whole 9 yards. We weren't as good as them, according to Adolf Hitler. That's how anti-black this world is. That's how, and just overall to anybody, that's how racist this world is. It's, that one group's horrible, but this group's even worse. They made us clean out the gas chambers right after they were used. They made us assist with the demonic experiments they performed on the other prisoners. And then they killed us, so there was no record of us helping them. To this day, we have no idea how many black people survived or were killed. And we haven't gotten a dime in reparations, just like the United States. So that's that. But we have a wonderful, wonderful guest coming on in about 8 minutes. Tracy, our favorite guest. You can check her out on Twitter, Viva La Diva Tracy on Twitter. And we're going to talk about Louis C.K., not for the reason you think. Well, yes, for the reason you think, but also for a reason that you don't expect. We're going to talk about Colin Kaepernick winning Man of the Year. We're also going to talk about Colin Kaepernick winning Man of the Year with some problematic people also getting the other covers. And we're going to have some fun, and by kicking out some folks in Hollywood. I don't know how.
I'm ready.
I'm going to have to figure out who. I always want to pick one because I want to make it, official. I want mine to be official.
I got 2.
I can get 50 if I want to. I would have to stick with one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, for the next 7 minutes, because you talked about this before. It was actually the last time Tracy was on, we talked about this. So we're talking about Bryan Cranston, Louis C.K. Actually, anybody. Louis C.K., James Brown, Mel Gibson, whatever. Very talented people in entertainment. Like, example, Mel Gibson, I've seen his movies. When he was in his prime, those are very enjoyable movies.
Oh my God, Lethal Weapon is amazing.
And here's something that's gonna be weird. One of my favorite movies of all time, What Women Want, with him and Helen Hunt.
I would have never guessed that. Oh my God.
Yep. Every time that comes on cable, it's like, all right, cool. I know what I'm doing for the next 30 minutes. What Women Want. All right. I'm a normal man. Let's get this going.
Most of my favorite movies have Johnny Depp in it. Do you know? Oh, that's been rough.
Johnny.
Domestic violence.
Over
the place.
Neighbors.
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, and definitely yes, with the Lone Ranger and everything along those lines. Yeah. It has been. Oh, it is so hard to stay away from those movies because growing up, even they were my favorite movies. Like some of the guilty pleasures was my biggest one was Cry Baby, which is a horrible movie, by the way. Still one of my favorite films.
I love Biodome, so you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're there. Biodome.
I mean, hey, it's my favorite bad movie of all time. Stephen Baldwin. I used to love that guy. But then I realized he was a racist
Oh my God.
Republican.
I was on a plane with him once. He's such an asshole.
Oh man,
He's one of these guys. He's, of course, he's not Alec Baldwin, but
I would say they're
with this,
comparable.
now you might say that, but when it comes to popularity, they're not.
Oh no, they're not. I
People
mean,
don't
in
know him.
terms
I'm not talking about
of
acting or skill
okay,
or anything.
yeah,
I just mean by the whole, like, who they are. Yeah, you might know that's a Baldwin brother, but he's not Alec. This
yeah.
was back in like 2006. This is literally the only celebrity I've ever like randomly ran into or met, and I didn't necessarily meet him. It was I was flying to LA or back, I think it was back from LA, and there was like hardly anybody on this plane, and he was on the plane and nobody noticed him, and so he made himself noticeable, and he starts talking to like the flight attendants, like, don't you know who I am, don't you know who I am, oh my God. And he just wanted them to like fall all over him, and it was painful watching it.
Yeesh. And that's a guy that I like. But this is the point. Okay, most of Hollywood, awful people. You know, where's that line? Because if What Women Want comes on again, I'm like, I don't know if I can handle this. You know, why don't you sleep with a pack of nigger shoes? I don't know if I can handle that. You know, James Brown. I've used James Brown reference before. He beat women up all the time. Tupac Shakur. My father is a lawyer. Back in the day, he had a client who sued Tupac, who said he allegedly beat her up because she refused to dance with him, and men or men, wouldn't take no for an answer. And he showed me the pictures. My father, there's just bruises all over the place, and Tupac's the Michael Jordan of hip hop.
Yeah.
I've got hundreds of songs on my iTunes of Tupac. What brother don't like Tupac? But then he's a horrible man, so it's kind of like,
Is it like Dre and the
Dre beat up a
abuse?
woman.
Yeah, I mean, that is well known. That's not even allegations.
So
And
where's the line? I mean, is it? Are we talking only the two worst things that people think of evil, rape and murder? Is that the line?
is the line based on who the victim is? Like, is it only white women that we care about? Because that's what it looks like. Again, going back to R. Kelly, going back to Dre, going back to these well-known, not just allegations. We know R. Kelly married a 15-year-old. We
Yep.
know
Jerry
that
Lee
there's
Lewis,
25 years of allegations against R. Kelly, specifically with children, ages around 14 and 15, to where there's even allegations of him leading a sex cult with children that I have tweeted out just recently, just today, while we've been on air. And it's like, where is the line? Why have Black women been screaming about this for years and just completely ignored? And that would go based even on, I mean, if you look at who's buying R. Kelly tickets, it's white people and Black people. It's all ethnicities and races. It's why don't those women get the same respect? When Me Too started after the Harvey Weinstein news broke, and there was the day of silence supposedly on Twitter, that a day without women. At first I was like, oh, a boycott. I love boycotts. Anybody knows me, I'll be like, yeah, I'm ready for a boycott. It only took about a minute to go, wait a minute, Native women and Black women have been talking about this stuff for years.
Centuries.
And nobody pays any attention. Yeah, centuries, you're absolutely right. But I'm talking about on Twitter. And nobody, just because, yeah, I pay attention. Other people do pay attention, but large scale, no. You don't ever have any kind of, let's take a day without women because Black women were the victims, or Native women Native women are 1 in 3 Native women are sexually assaulted in their lifetime. They're assaulted
And
more than
that.
anybody else. And yeah, and of course that's just the known
Ridiculous.
number. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. That's the known number. But we don't start having this national conversation about it until it's white actresses, and they had to be actresses at that. It wasn't
And
even
even now with Lupita Nyong'o, we spoke about this we spoke on this on an earlier show. She is one of Weinstein's victims, She spoke at length. She wrote an article, an op-ed, and still no one's listening to her. And she's an Oscar winner, but her skin's too dark.
Right.
She's not a human being.
And that's what we have to figure. I don't know. How do we show the hypocrisy of this other than talking about it on our little show? I mean, it needs to be known. I've shown, I've tweeted out the recent links about this, of how Black women are ignored, Native women are ignored when they talk about it. It goes right back to missing white girl syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea that that's not an idea, the fact that when Black women and Native women go missing or have a crime committed against them, it's not national news because it's hardly news at all. It doesn't even show up on local news half the time. You don't even get Amber Alerts most of the time.
And what should be national news is Tracy is on the line.
Woohoo! Hello, Tracy.
Hello.
How you doing today, sister?
I'm okay. How are you doing, Nolan?
Doing all right. So we have a gentleman in the news named Louis CK, and this guy has been famous comedian, television shows, big time movies, the whole 9 yards. His own comedy talks about how horrible men are to women. Now he has admitted all the allegations against him are true, yet
and these rumors have been around for years.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about this 5 years ago.
That's the truth.
And he denied them then.
Of course. Oh, did he? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he did.
Well, there's also another side to this that no one seems like I'm the only one talking about this, which is not abnormal. Anybody who knows his comedy really well knows that he has used the N-word more than once on stage. In fact, there was one bit he did about nigger Jim.
Yes.
He kept saying the N-word over and over and over and over and over again. Now, the white defense is, well, he wasn't using it as a slur. He wasn't calling any black people that word. Blah, 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 blah. Not the point. If you are not black, you don't say the word. It's very simplistic. But he has said that word multiple times during sets, and that set in particular said it over and over and over again, and nobody cares. This is the missing white woman syndrome, the white woman syndrome, missing white woman syndrome you spoke on, Gal. This is they're not hurting white people. We don't care. He's disrespecting black people everywhere on the stage. Nobody cares. But now, obviously, now that white women are hurt, sadly, it should have never happened. Now white America cares. But Tracy, you seeing or listening to some of that comedy, what's your take on how no one's talking about this, and then also what's your take of when you listen to him do those sets?
Well, first, I didn't know who the guy was. Couldn't have told you anything about the man before this eruption that has come out in the media recently. So that plays into what you were saying earlier. When black people are affected, no one cares. I had never heard of this man before. I'd never seen his act before. So he was popular in some circles. He wasn't popular in mine. But he appeared, from the video clips that I saw, he appeared to take great joy in saying the N-word. I think that it was about a lot more than comedy for him. I think he enjoyed it. It was really disgusting. And as Ta-Nehisi Coates said in a video clip I saw of him addressing this matter, one, why do you want to say it? Mm-hmm. And that white people get offended and up in arms because it's a word that they invented. Why can't I use this word? You're you're oppressing me. You're being racist toward me because you're telling me I can't use this word. And in context, there are words that we don't use all the time as it refers to other people, other groups of people. And it's understood in the social contract, if you will, one with another, that there are certain things that you just don't do and say because they're hateful or for other reasons. They might be harassing. But that same view is not afforded to Black people. But in getting back to your original question, I think he loves saying the word. It's obvious. It's obvious it's in many of his routines that he does.
We were talking about that earlier. Quentin Tarantino loves using that word. He'll put himself in the movie to use the word.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've gotten even more of it, just being a tiny bit older than I am, but I've had white friends or seen white people, and they want to say this word so bad, or they even say it. And of course, you either have to check them, or you just, all right, you know what? We're not even, get out of my face. I'm not friends with you anymore. But as you said, you could see it in his eyes. Lewis, he wanted to say the word. He wanted to keep saying the word. The white privilege factor is, no, I'm white. I can do whatever I want. Just like with this abuse. I'm white. I'm a man. I can do whatever I want. And the fact that he's admitted everything is true with the allegations of the abuse and the harassment, and yet he's not in jail or prison. He basically walked up to the police station, put himself in handcuffs, walked to a cell and said, "Put me in." No, what do you mean? You're a white man. Get out of here, you scoundrel.
Well, the legal system can't begin to intervene without a complaint. And unless one files a formal complaint about his behavior within the statute of limitations timeframe, they're not going to do anything about it.
Even if the rapist or abuser admits it, it has to have a complaint attached to it?
Yes. So let me give you an example. So when a notorious killer kills someone and gets reported in the news, like serial killers, random people, not many, but a few, walk in and confess to being the perpetrators. It's happened before, with no factual evidence to support what they're saying. So, for example, there was a man whose name I can't recall who admitted to killing John Benet Ramsey. And after they investigated his claims, they discovered there's no way he could have killed her. So to me to walk in and say, hey, I did XYZ, the police still have to investigate the claim that's being made. You can make a complaint against yourself, sure, but the police still need to investigate that. But the police take any action against anything, just like courts.
Wouldn't there be some kind of action taken now, at least in terms of investigate it, with Lewis coming out and admitting that he did all that stuff, that horrible stuff?
Not if none of the victims come forward to file a formal complaint.
Yikes.
Now, there are some exceptions. Well, I guess you could class them as exceptions, and that's with domestic violence. In some places, if the police come out, but then again, now they've been summoned, someone has called them to come out, or the officer has witnessed it with his own eyeballs, and then self-initiates the complaint themselves. But when the police come on the scene of domestic violence disputes, if there are physical injuries that they can see, their own policy may dictate someone be taken into custody, whether or not the victim complains.
That's only in certain states, though, as well. I think there are 30 states.
It's not in every state.
Yeah.
I'm giving Nolan some examples. And
absolutely.
Tracy Thurman, I believe that was in Connecticut, had been attacked by her ex-husband, and partially paralyzed as a result of the attack and him stomping on her head and neck. And the Torrington Police Department failed to act. And that's one of the cases that triggered these laws and these policies to change in domestic violence situations.
Wow. It's just a very sticky legal system we have here. Very sticky.
Is it a legal system? I mean, it's an injustice system. The cops are out here breaking the law themselves. I can't really call it a legal system.
That's a good point. I don't think I can call it that either. And there's a gentleman by the name of Colin Kaepernick who has spoken out against that very injustice you speak of, associated with talking about police brutality. What's your take on him winning Man of the Year, according to GQ, anyways?
Oh, I was excited about it. I think he's definitely worthy of being named that. I'm not surprised at the backlash that he's gotten for it by people who insist on reframing his purpose in kneeling into an anthem protest, which is not. But I think he was definitely very deserving of that. Happy to see him get it.
As am I. He just donated some funds to veterans, if I'm not mistaken, and spent some time. He spent a lot of time with veterans. I think you brought this up earlier on the show, Tracy, that he asked veterans, what their take on if I kneel, what their mindset is, and if it would be disrespectful and whatnot. And there's been an open letter even from American military personnel. This is last year, and the veterans not only are with Kaepernick and what he's doing, but they have publicly come out and said as much. And it's good, at least from the standpoint of having the Army, some parts of the Army, be with him, because it takes some of the pressure off. But the problem is the way people are in the society, especially white folks. Facts don't matter. I saw a number of tweets in the last few weeks about J.J. Watt, who's a player in the NFL. He helped raise about $25 million.
I think it was 37 million.
37 million, and that's very good for the Hurricane Harvey victims. Cap has put up his own money, millions of his own money, millions of dollars to help his people. So it's very funny that someone said, no. He's disrespecting the veterans, but J.J. Watt, he should be Man of the Year.
I've seen that too. Yes, I've seen that too. And when natural disasters strike, it is common for people of affluence to help. And not to minimize what he was able to accomplish. That's something easy for hearts to embrace, humanitarianism. What Colin is doing, it comes at great personal cost, not just in money that he has donated, but in terms of relationships, in terms of future employment opportunities or lack thereof. He is ostracized in some circles. So the cost, 1 million versus 37 million, that's nothing. In terms of what it's costing each of them personally. I think what Colin has been doing has been minimized. I have seen a lot of veterans support him. I've seen some veterans who do not support him, but the veterans that I've seen who do not support him also believe his protest is about the anthem, and it's not. They have not taken the time to find out what it is he is protesting.
And you're right. So total was $1 million. I shouldn't say millions of dollars. It's he actually said himself, I pledged to donate $1 million, and as of September of this year, he's donated 900,000. I think he's up to $1 million because it's been reported by multiple sources that he's donated the full $1 million, which is incredible because he's not playing. He's never going to play in the league again. So those millions of dollars a year he's earning, he's not going to earn again. So to actually put up his own money is absolutely incredible, and shows you the commitment. And he's also not one of those people who just donate and go, y'all have I'm with you, good luck. Which is, I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world at all, but he's doing both. He's doing that, and he's in the streets, and he's protesting. He's, going pilgrimage to Africa, the whole deal. It's hard not to salute him, and let alone say he's not man of the year. I mean, you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody else who is done as much as he has. And there are plenty of people who you could say have. I'll name one, Dallas Goldtooth, who's done a bunch for Native people and trying to protect the Sioux land up at Standing Rock, and also being all around the country fighting for Native people. But in that same vein, there were 3 other people that got covers. Apparently, it's Men of the Year, Men and Women of the Year. So they gave Colbert a cover. This is a man who humanizes war criminals. He's had Trump on his show. Because you have to have Trump on the show as president. He's had Mel Gibson on the show, and there was a skit he did where they're just lying on a blanket in the park, just talking about whatever, some funny stuff. Also, of course, he's also had Hillary Clinton on his shows, going back to Comedy Central multiple times, smiling and laughing. And Gal Gadot is also one of the cover people, Zionist and former military member of the Israeli Armed Forces. And we've seen, for those who look, Wonder Woman has actually been used as a tool of propaganda for Israel, the state of Israel, and the military. And then lastly, Kevin Durant, who on the surface looks like a very harmless, fun-loving man who loves his mother. But this is a man who he's publicly said he is a Washington blank fan and wears the apparel, has no shame in it. Basically, it's like seeing a Native person with the N-word on their chest. So interesting that they gave Kaepernick this, but then the other, as quote, American heroes are a Zionist, a racist, and an anti-Native black dude. What are your takes on any of that?
My brother used to actually coach Kevin Durant when he was in middle school. And I know that my brother's really proud of what he's been able to do on the court. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I try to remember is that everyone is on a different level of wokeness, if you will. We're all working. Well, I won't say all. A lot of us who are aware are trying to learn more, so that we can turn around and unlearn the things that we thought, believed, or possibly never knew and need to learn more about. And I can say that before social media, I did not think about mascots. It would not have occurred to me that a mascot was racist. Now, I've got a background in sociology. These are things that did not come up in my social psychology classes, in my psychology of the Black experience, all types of different sociology classes. I never heard the word intersectionality in a single sociology class that I took on the undergraduate level. And so I think that first you have to be told it's a problem and why it's a problem. Has he been told it's a problem and why it's a problem? And if he chooses to ignore those voices, then we all have a problem with his continued clinging to this mascot. You can be a team fan and be against a mascot. So it's disappointing. I think that Native Americans and Black people have a really good opportunity to come together to address a lot of the issues that we both face. You've got to be willing to listen. Now, I've never been a Stephen Colbert fan, so I can't really comment on who he's had on his show because I've never really watched his show. I've probably seen one or two. I can't comment on his piece with Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson is a raging racist and anti-Semite, based on his own words. So giving voice to people like that is just never okay.
What about Miss Goodell, AKA Wonder Woman?
I think that the people of Israel are conditioned by the state to support the state, just like here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't speak for what she has been taught. Didn't go to school in Israel, but I can speak on willingness to not speak up and use the position to highlight the fact that everyone, all of us on the face of this planet, deserve a safe place to call home. And that means having access to water, which is being restricted to Palestinians, and electricity, which is being restricted. And we talk about our militarized police forces here in the United States. We've seen nothing like a militarized law enforcement until you walk down the streets of the videos that I have seen of Palestine and Israel. Tanks rolling down your neighborhood street. I can't even fathom that and what it does to the psyche of Palestinians. And for her not to use her voice to say, even Palestinian people deserve water and electricity and to be safe and free from fear, like all of us do, that's a problem. And I don't know enough about her and her politics outside of the fact that she is Israeli, and that I know the IDF mandates all citizens participate in the military or have military training for a period of a few years.
Here, I have a quote. I'm sorry, but I was going to actually inform you on this because I just informed myself on the same thing, but I can give you a quote from her.
Okay.
During 2014, when the well, we know that the conflict in Israel and Gaza is nonstop, but this was one when it was, of course, getting more attention in our media. And she uploaded a picture of herself and her daughter. This is right after she had been announced as going to be Wonder Woman. I think it was days after the announcement. And it was on her official Facebook page. It's a picture of her and her daughter praying, and this is her exact. By the way, this is heartbreaking because I loved Gal Gadot, and I did not know this.
Mm-hmm.
She says, quote, "I am sending my love and prayers to my fellow Israeli citizens, especially to all the boys and girls who are risking their lives protecting my country against the horrific acts conducted by Hamas, who are hiding like cowards behind women and children. We shall overcome. Hashtag we are right, hashtag free Gaza from Hamas, hashtag stop terror, hashtag coexistence, hashtag love IDF."
Oh, jeez. I know who I'm kicking out. That
Wow.
clenched
My
right.
heart is not happy right now.
One of the things I will say, aside from the fact that I really did not like that comment, is she mentioned Hamas, and I'm wondering if in this statement she's conflating Palestinians with Hamas,
Yeah.
or did she mean specifically Hamas and not Palestinians?
Yeah, that's a
Um,
good question.
Well, she
that,
should know. I mean, she
Well,
she
it's
lives
easy
in
to say she
Israel.
should know, but most civilians, even there, I mean, there's things that we should know as well
right.
as American civilians that the people around the world know that we don't. So it is very hard and no way am I apologizing for her, but we can't just say she should know when all we get is our censored as media. And even when we have access to the internet, we have to know what to look for. I haven't heard anything about Zimbabwe in our media today. Um, and it's just the point of the amount of things that even I consistently learn about atrocities that the US still commits and that you would think we should know.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know until somebody tells us.
That's true.
And all we have is what's been told to us, whether it's from our education system, our media, our parents, whoever it is, our friends, Facebook, whatever it is. And so that is a good question. Has she ever stepped out of her bubble, considering that she was in the Israeli army? She had to be, as you said, there's a mandate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's I get veterans when they come back who come take my intro to sociology class who have a lot of experiences that they want to talk about, yet still don't know some of the state corporate crime or state crime that I'm going to introduce them to that is committed by our governments and our
Mm-hmm.
military. And so opening their eyes to it usually is not, I don't get a lot of anger towards me as I do for some others. It's usually racism is what gets the anger towards me, making the white people think about their racism. But when it comes to that kind of crime or the atrocities, they tend to be more, oh shit, I didn't know that. And so it is hard to say she should know. You're right. We feel she should know, but what else? Where else is she getting the information from? Israel is incredibly, anything when it comes to Israel and Gaza is incredibly censored in most media here in the UK, all over the place. All we can get information from Twitter. We might follow people to where we can get the truth of what's happening, or what we are, what we're told is the truth of what's happening. But if you just talk to the everyday person, all they know is yay Israel, boo Palestine, because they don't know anything else. They hear nothing else.
That's the truth.
True.
Hamas is they always focus on Hamas and they're a terrorist group, and okay, so that's the entire Palestinian people right there. Not wait, these are civilians living here. This is their land in the first place, and there's such a parallel between Palestine slash the state of Israel and the United States slash Turtle Island. The United States is still occupying this land illegally from the indigenous people, and Israel's doing the same thing to Palestine. Very interesting. But we have about 15 minutes left in the show, and I think we should get to our favorite segment of each show. And I've made my selection who are we kicking out of Hollywood? And as tradition, the guest gets to choose first. Tracy, who are we kicking out of Hollywood today?
Oh gosh, who deserves to stay in Hollywood?
I said that last week. I said the same thing.
Oh man, there's too many to choose from. Obviously, we've already kicked out CK, right?
Ugh. He's on the list, but he should
That
have
can be a
never.
group decision. That'd be a group decision. That doesn't
Yeah.
one for us. This is for all of us.
I wanted to hear specifically your thoughts on Taylor Swift, since I kicked her out last week and you weren't on the show at the point.
You know, you guys know I really don't listen to music. I really don't. I can't name a single song that this woman sings. And I don't fan over people. I don't follow famous people like music stars and entertainers on social media, and I don't keep up with their lives. I have actually met her though, and in person, she was very nice. We had several conversations. She told me that criminology was her favorite class in high school, and I realized that famous people have to always be, quote unquote, on when they're out in public. And how she controls her image is well known. And pieces written about her and her legal team. And this thing about the Nazis loving her because she's white, because she has light eyes. And then there was some talk about her video. And again, I don't listen to her music, not going to watch the video. I'm just not a fan. I don't fan over people and don't really care about music. And I think that her unwillingness to make public statements about things brought to her attention cost her a lot of fans.
Yeah.
And it would have been just so simple for her to say, look, I don't want these Nazis singing my praises. Go away. I don't want people like this in my fandom. And she's not doing that. And that is why she deserves to be kicked out. I don't know what her views are on race. I don't need to know.
Oh, you should hear what she said about Nicki Minaj and just white privilege, white woman syndrome up the yin yang.
Oh yeah, class privilege as well. I mean, once you get down to it, the privilege in that woman is especially when I have to defend Kanye West, and I am not a fan. You know, and that's when it was like, I'm done with you, Taylor. I have to defend Kanye West and Kim Kardashian now. What the fuck have you done? You know, but I'm going to repeat the quote that I heard last week, that Papa John's is more woke than Taylor Swift.
Oh my goodness.
She hit fame young, and once that level of fame hits, you are definitely in a cocoon.
She copyrighted a number. 13. You
Right.
you're not even supposed to get it like on a shirt or anything now because it's copyrighted by Taylor Swift.
She copyrighted 13.
I'm confused. What about sports stars?
I know. I don't have the answers to that. I just know that she copyrighted the number.
Okay.
I think she did another phrase too. I can't remember what phrase she copyrighted. It's hers. Like she made it up. I don't remember what it was. I think it was from one of her dumb songs.
I'm going to have to look that up because 13 is in Twitter handles. It's
absolutely. I'll send you the link.
Friday the 13th movies. I mean, like, how do you, I don't know. Yeah, please. Would you send that to me? vdivatracy@gmail.com.
Gotcha. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. My bad. She trademarked 1989, the year she was born. It wasn't 13.
That's even worse.
And she also trademarked "This Sick Beat," the quote. She said she made up this sick beat.
Wait a minute. No. When rap first came out, When rap first came out, I was about 9 or 10 years old. You remember that song Rapper's Delight?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And all of that. I was actually alive and around when this came out. And in the upcoming years, when people were beatboxing and things like that, this sick beat, how many times did you hear your friends say that beat is sick? I heard it all the time. So no, she didn't coin it.
Yep, I know.
But
That's
Taylor Swift is obviously a black woman.
Oh my gosh. But yes, she deserves to be kicked out. And although I'm not her friend, we are friendly. If that makes sense.
That'll
Yeah.
be an interesting relationship going forward. So if you ever meet in Hollywood,
This means
you're
if
gonna
we
have to
speak,
bring her
if we-
out of the jurisdiction of Hollywood to hang out with her.
we're not hanger outers or anything like that. She
Yeah.
does live here in my city,
Okay.
or maintains a home here in my city. And that's how she managed to be summoned to jury duty when we were on jury duty together.
Mm-hmm.
But her lack of direct response to this is why she needs to be kicked out.
I completely agree.
Stay in
Nothing.
Tennessee and don't go to. You can't enter California anymore in Hollywood. Taylor, you've been kicked out of Hollywood. Gal, who you
She
got?
had an opportunity to get more non-white fans.
Oh yeah.
Although she's been critiqued for years, she had a huge opportunity, and she let that opportunity go in favor of trying to sue a blogger.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's what we were talking about last week. Absolutely.
Okay, who's next?
I'm next. I'm
Gal,
ready.
Who you got?
This is heartbreaking for me more than anything.
Is Brian
But-
Brian leaving?
No, my favorite. This is not necessarily something I would ever openly admit normally, but my favorite show in the history of TV is One Tree Hill. I'm not saying that that's a positive thing, by the way.
Also, it is the blackest show in the history of television. By the way, if he doesn't know.
Who?
It has won 14 NAACP awards.
But I'm going to have to kick out Mark Schwann, the writer, the main producer and writer, because of actually, it was one individual who was a writer on the show who came out this week talking about how she was sexually harassed by Mark Schwann. And then the whole rest of the cast actually came out in support of her and talked about other issues that they had on the set. So fuck you, Mark Schwann.
Ugh,
But twice.
fuck you 3 times. Oh my. Well, I really want to change mine to Taylor Swift after hearing that this sick beat is now trademarked.
I don't know why I just assumed
By
you
a
knew that.
snowflake.
I'm sorry.
I've tuned out of her. I mean, like, I'll be honest with you. I liked her coming out. She just made it big. I'll be honest. You Belong With Me. I love that video. I thought it was cute. She looked really, nice in that, and the song was catchy. But then the more I learn from her, the more I hear her speak, I'm like, man, what's wrong with this woman? What's wrong with this girl? And then all the white privilege stuff. Like, I'm out. I tuned out. But I did not know that she.
Her most recent hit is called Look What You Made Me Do. If you listen to that song, it is nothing but what you hear an abuser say to their victim. Every lyric. It's amazing. And it's directed towards Kanye.
Wow.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend researching into that one. But even if you just listen to a few of the lyrics, it is horrifying. And I think it's literally 90% of the lyrics are just "Look what you made me do," and in this non-Taylor Swifty voice, non-happy voice. And yeah, I've only heard it once, and all I could think of is what I've heard actually somebody say to me in real life after having my nose broke. And
Oh
it was
my God.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So it hit pretty close to home on that one, and I was just like, I'm never listening to this one again.
Well, I really want to kick her out. I really
Well,
do.
we've already kicked her
She's
out.
already
If you have
kicked
somebody
out. I want
else,
to kick her out twice, though. That's how much.
well,
I want
this
to
would be
kick
the
her out.
third time
I want
anyway.
to get behind the county line or the city line of Hollywood. Then and then go back in, and then I'm gonna kick you out again. Gal Gadot, go away, leave Hollywood.
My
You
heart.
Zionist, you harmful ass Zionist. Gal Gadot, you are gone.
As a DC fanatic, my heart, but I'm with you.
I'll tell you a quick story since we have 4+ minutes left. I went to see Furious 6, or whatever the hell it was called, the sixth Fast and Furious movie. I had no idea who she was. I just, I go see the movie. I'm like, wow, she is pretty. Understatement in my mind. Like, I like her. And she, did all the stuff in the movie and, she, driving a car fast, all that cool stuff, movie, Hollywood stuff. And that was the same night Osama bin Laden was killed, ironically. And I became a quick fan of Godot's. And then I find out she's a former military member of the IDF and still a supporter of the IDF and a Zionist. So you were kicked out of Hollywood, Miss Godot. So Godot, Swift, and
Chwan.
Twat.
Sure, yeah, that'll work.
I heard twat.
I would also throw in, and you've already kicked him out of Hollywood, but I'm going to now, Jon Stewart, who
Oh, that little vile
is making up excuses for Louis C.K. and said, "Oh, if I would have known," but no, Jon Stewart, you did an entire segment right before you got done with your show a year and a half ago. I remember it, where you just laughed off these rumors and actually pretty much defamed the accusers, and then you have the nerve to go on the Today Show today and act all shocked. This was well known in the comedy world. I've seen so many comedians come out and say, "Oh yeah, we knew that. Why the fuck didn't you say something at the time?" Most of them are women, and that makes a little bit of sense, at least because of how the comedy world is structured. But there was an article written on it 3 years ago at Gawker that had even evidence in it.
Yeah.
But it's not until Friday when the New York Times writes it that he comes out, and he denied it all up until Friday. So, Jon Stewart, you're kicked out as well if you're going to be a victim blamer and a apologist.
I'll try to make this short. My last straw with John was when he said this after Trump was elected: a multi-ethnic cultural democracy, and that is what America, by its founding and Constitution, is. Fuck you, Jon Stewart. Bye-bye.
Oh yeah, that's not accurate one bit.
Not even a little bit. Tracy, you were going to say something before I got all upset about Jon Stewart's American exceptionalism.
I don't have a copy of your running list of people kicked out, but was Bill Maher on that list?
According, Bill Maher's
cool.
Never been in my list. Like, he's not even in Hollywood in my mind, but he
kick
should
him
be
out.
on. You're right. You can absolutely kick him out.
I never
He's
thought
got
he was cool. He's gone?
He's gone.
Oh yeah, he should have been again. That's why I've never even brought him up, because in my mind he's not in Hollywood. He's just a piece of shit.
And black people still keep going on his show.
I mean, between the racism and the hardcore Islamophobia.
Oh, sexism.
Yes.
Sexism.
I was once a fan of his show. I would watch it, his Friday night show.
He's a very intelligent man.
He is.
I'll say that much.
And it was the Boston bombing that changed it for me because of the way he approached it. And then that's when I started to see. And then after that, he just got so. It's one thing to make fun of all religions, like he did in Religiosity, I think is the name of the film. And to kind of talk about all of them and satirically, I get that. But the Islamophobia from that man is horrifying.
Horrifying. And it's also horrifying. I just make this plea. Neil deGrasse Tyson, Mr. deGrasse Tyson, brother man, the pillar of the Black nerd community. Leave Bill alone. Run away, Neil. Run away as far as you can from that man, and do not return on his show, please. This is just a plea from a fellow black man like myself. Please don't return. Well, we have to wrap up this episode of Who's Culture. Tracy, thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you again.
Indeed. You can follow Tracy at Viva La Diva Tracy. That's Viva La Diva Tracy on Twitter. And Gal, it's been another fun and angry show. I enjoyed it.
Every Wednesday, fun and angry.
2 p.m. Pacific
I
time.
don't know if I will be here next Wednesday, just so you know. I don't know if we'll have a show. I don't know.
We don't know. It will
Yeah,
return
because I'll be making dinner for
on a
Thanksgiving the next day. And yeah, we should have a whole show on that situation
Thanksgiving,
there.
National Day of Mourning. Yeah. But yeah, so we don't know exactly when
I
we'll be
might
back.
have it. That's exactly it. We don't know if we'll be here or not. I might
But
be able
there
to
will
do
be
it.
a Wednesday soon where we'll be back
Yes.
2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on People's Radio United. And y'all have a wonderful November the 15th. Bye.
Bye. I was like, I hope he's awake.
We out.